as we said earlier, obviously, Radinsky is also an artist, and I've obviously been flashing up pictures, your incredible pictures, if I might say, from your website, which I'm going to drop in the chat again, because I love your work. So you tend to describe your work as sort of orientated around cyberpunk. Do you want to just comment on
Yes.
how you got to that, what inspired you, things like that?
Well, when it comes to cyberpunk, well, of course, you've got the visual aspect. It's great, very
Yeah.
vibrant colors. And you can experiment a lot with the futurism. You can have a lot of fun with the lightning and experiment in many different ways. But what actually drew me to cyberpunk the most was the politics behind it. Like the cyberpunk as a topic is an inherently political genre, and I always loved it for that because it asks questions that I work on myself in essays and the like. When you think about cyberpunk games, you don't necessarily have the terminology,
Yeah.
but indeed you're talking about fundamental freedoms, and it asks a lot of questions about that. When it comes to cloning, for example.
Yeah.
That's a question of fundamental law. Transhumanism as well. That's talking about fundamental freedoms too.
Yeah.
And also it discusses a lot, more dystopian governments, the way we'd lose aspects such as our privacy as well, a path that we are heading on, that we're more willing to just simply accept that our privacy doesn't belong to us anymore. And that was definitely... What?
Sorry, go on, son. I keep interrupting.
So that was definitely the kind of topics I wanted to touch upon, and
Yeah.
I'm very familiar as well with how administrations work and how they can become corrupt and the like. So obviously it was the perfect setting for that, to experiment where we could go, where we could land.
And obviously, yeah, again, there's the influence of like corporate power, like the mega corporations and stuff.
Absolutely.
I do find it interesting. I can't remember if she's the one who actually talked about this once, but I've got a friend called Meryl Kavanagh, who's she's a synthwave musician. She trades as iShadow 2600 FM, and she put up a thing not too long ago about how she, especially with the release of Cyberpunk 2077 in November, she did comment that a lot of people these days seem to miss the point of cyberpunk, perhaps. So the
really
aesthetics is like what appeals to them, and then that's like the level they tend to stop at.
It absolutely is very misinterpreted because as a genre, it's inherently pessimistic. It's the accumulation and the representation as well of very strong anguish for the future that a lot of artists held as to where we were going to go, in which direction we're going to go. We never had a society that has moved on so fast. We don't even understand what's going on. We don't even have the time to take a step back and be like, wait, what is this new environment? What is this new society? What is expected of me and the like, And so inherently, it was a way to manifest those fears about the direction in which we were going and the like, because everything is just going too fast for everyone.
Yeah.
I think if we all take a step back to, stop for a minute and observe what is going on, you think, hey, come on, this is going all over the place. What is even going on anymore?
Yeah.
The things that happened in 20 years now happen in 3, It's really impressive, and it's very scary because we don't know what's next. We could predict a bit more in the past. We can't now.
Yeah. I think Waffle just said something in the chat, which I thought was quite interesting. Gamers upset about trans characters in a cyberpunk setting. I know, again, I'm not really, I can't sit here and pretend to be like a medical professional or any expert in any sense, but, that the increasing focus in popular consciousness on transgender people is, again, along with a lot of other things that we sort of mentioned a little while ago, it's bringing those cyberpunk themes to the fore, because there's these ideas now where people are thinking more about, essentially augmentation, about, adjusting your body through the use of science. And obviously cyberpunk is a genre which is, as you say, pessimistic about that, whereas obviously most trans people's experience transitioning is obviously very positive. So yeah, as you say, compare it with everything else that's happening geopolitically, economically, culturally, and then obviously in that case medically. We are actually starting to live in that sort of time that people like William Gibson, were writing about back in like the 1980s.
Absolutely. We're living in a world, where they're perfecting, exoskeletons and the like, which they're not doing it out of, the kindness of the heart either. Of course, it's going to be used as a weapon of war. It always does. But it brings also opportunities medically and labor-wise too. And we have those innovations kicking in, which are also going to help civil society. Well, it's going to land in the wrong hands for quite a bit, obviously, and they're going to get their hands on it first.
Yeah.
But we live in a time of incredible innovation in general, and there are some things I consider to be you can be optimistic about. It's going to improve a lot of people's lives. When it comes to exoskeletons, for example, I think they're thinking about getting all of that pretty much out by 2030 and the like. When it comes to workers and the like, they could actually have one possibly in the future, so they could carry weight that is not going to damage their back and everything. And when it comes to people as well who are paralyzed, they found out that it could help bring muscle strength back and the like. So there are some things that to be optimistic about too.
Yeah.
But inherently, it's true that it's meant to be very pessimistic, and it's interesting to see the kind of twist that we attach to it too. Is that indeed there's going to be the aspect where it is going to improve a lot of people's lives.
Yeah.
But destroy them at the same time.
Yeah, and I mean obviously like certain cyberpunk themes and tropes and stuff that obviously on the flip side make things more pessimistic. I mean obviously one of the most relevant ones is automation. So like I'm a huge I'm a huge fan of like the Deus Ex franchise and that, especially Human Revolution, where it's sort of at a point where augmentation technology and robotics are only just in the canon starting to impact on people's lives. So lots of jobs are going, and that's a very real. That is now a very sort of immediate thing for people. That's the thing that especially people in like haulage industries are now having to literally contemplate. If you're a truck driver who's like, for example, just starting out, if you're in like your 20s or whatever, it's remarkable that you now actually have to think that in like a decade or two, there will be driverless trucks doing your job.
Absolutely, and it's a very complicated conversation to have because obviously we've had automation. Some jobs disappeared through innovation in general, but the issue is, how are you going to handle that transition? What economical impact is it going to have on people? And because at the same time it's going to remove some jobs that might be dangerous in general, and you relegate it to robots. You already have legal scholars who are thinking about what are we going to do about robot rights. It's pretty fascinating. But you're going to have that aspect as well, but the transition, no one has really thought about it. So either I'm for it or I'm against it, but no one is having in mind the inevitable transition we're going to have. Like, we're going to have to think about it. Thank you, Ikuliat. Thank you for coming and reading the chat at the same time.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. If you want to drop me a follow, I'd really appreciate that. I'm going to start drawing up a proper schedule soon. I'm going to do a lot more interviews like this as well. So, I hope to see you again, and I hope you have a great day. Robo trucks are coming.
We've got Wholesome Idiot. So
thank you both.
That's his name on Twitter. And he is very wholesome. He says they repainted all the road markings here and switched to all white lines to make it easier for robot cars to see them. Wow, nice.
Thank you both for the follows. I really appreciate that. I think Streamlabs is lagging a bit, but I'll be interested in seeing you on Twitter. I'm always on there basically now. That's really cool. And I don't know if any of you are like artists or anything like that.
Noti is. I don't know if Nam is lurking or not.
If anyone ever wants to come on, literally, you can DM me on Twitter. It's always the best place to find me. One thing I really want to do on this channel is make like a focus of just talking to people like this conversation we're having now. Just, you know, doesn't have to be necessarily be on heavy topics. You know, it can just be like just casually talking about a topic you find interesting. And
you should have Noti on. She's a great artist, and she's very, very knowledgeable.
Yeah.
When it comes to she's panicking in the chat. She's very knowledgeable when it comes to
no pressure
wildlife,
whatsoever,
you know, behavioralism.
Yeah.
Is that it? She's really great. So if she's not too shy, she can hit you up. She's got a French accent as well, of course. You know, there's a lot of French people. Zut, indeed.
I think that's the thing, actually, just to drag it back to the EU a second. People don't think enough about, like, looking, especially from a British perspective, looking east rather than just always at the United States. So definitely I would love to, anyone who's, like, either talking about culture, art, or politics, or any science or anything, if anyone's from, like, another direction, not just the US, I'd definitely love to have them on. So yeah, no pressure, but if you ever want to come on, or if, you know, if in chat, if you both want to come together, that'd be pretty fucking awesome. That'd be pretty based. So, but yeah. So, do you want to talk about some of your specific projects? At the moment, I've got, is it Malush?
Malush.
Malush, the trial of an outdated democracy.
It means baby in Russian.
Oh, okay. So, do you want to just talk us through that? Because it says on your website it's an upcoming piece.
It is.
As
it
both
is
a
indeed
book and a
upcoming.
motion comic. How is that getting along?
Well, I've been teasing a lot, you know. I know that on Twitter and the like, everyone is pretty much like, Todia's writing a book, and we have no idea what's going on. We don't know what it's about. You know, we're just familiar with the fact that he posts paintings of it, illustrations, and like he talks about it like, I wrote 3 chapters today and stuff like that. But in the end, Noti replying as well. She won't shut up indeed about animal, wildlife, and the like, but it's incredibly interesting, so I highly recommend it. But yeah, it's very nebulous for everyone pretty much. But actually, what my book is inspired by, is my background in humanitarian law, law in general. Really, I talk a lot about constitutional law, about administrative law, but there's a big focus on humanitarian law.
Yeah.
For very specific reasons. And I started that project. It's very dystopian, of course. But there was always something that bothered me in general in the discourse, TM, and the like. It was the worrying increase in demagoguery in general.
Yeah.
The way we tend to talk about things, very complex issues, and how quick we are to remove the nuance and not talk about things in a graceful manner.
Yeah.
In a way. A lot of things are incredibly complicated, if not all of them. And I wanted to write something about the consequences that kind of shit can have.
Yeah.
In general, which tend to be very real too. And it was about discussing as well the right to memory, the right to truth, you know, when you've been having conflicts and the like, and the responsibility a state has in offering reckoning to the victims of a conflict and that sort of thing. So that was the theme I was going for.
Which ties very closely back to some of the other things we were saying a little while ago, like about like geopolitically and things like that.
Oh, absolutely. It's inherently political.
Yeah.
If anything, I think quite a few, I think the left might like it a lot too, the left gang, because there is indeed quite a lot of, you know, class talk as well.
Yeah.
And inevitably, you know. So there's a bit of that too. And I talk about quite a few things. It takes a lot of time because I'm being, you know, obviously very careful about the way I convey things.
Yeah.
Because, you know, there's a specific point and those are very complicated issues. And I refused to find myself in a situation in which I wrote something, you know, random and I didn't pay attention to the message that was being conveyed and the like. And I really wanted to portray it accurately and not romanticize anything. So I planned every single thing. I'm a huge planner in general. So it's taking a lot of time, but it is massive.
Yeah.
I've been working on it since it's been what, 7 years, I think.
Jesus. I didn't realise it was that long.
Oh yeah, it's huge. It's the one of my manuscripts is about 1,000 pages.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Are you gonna because it said you're doing the motion comic version? Are you going to be like doing that yourself, presumably animating it and things like that, or are you working with someone else on that?
I'm doing everything by myself, actually.
Nice.
First off, because I have no money, so I can't hire anyone. And I would if I had. If I had the money, I'd probably hire people to help out. I know, right? No, to having no money. But also, I wanted to handle things a bit by myself with my own vision when it came to it. So, indeed, the goal that I had is that the issue with my book is that the original language is in French.
Yeah.
And I mean, French is a great language with which to write because you can do a lot with the grammar that you can't necessarily do with English.
Yeah.
And I wanted to translate the book myself, but it's going to take quite a while.
Yeah.
So I figured, what could be interesting and even more accessible in a way was to have videos instead. And so it would be basically the story, but semi-animated with dialogue boxes and
Yeah.
lubed dissing on French.
I've just shot back at that.
Well, to be honest, to be fair, French is quite the shit language as well. It's so treacherous, so I don't blame people for hating it. When it comes to the pronunciation and the spelling and the grammar, it's oh my god, it's I always kind of and I say this really nicely, like this is playful teasing, but when I see political YouTubers say terms such as bourgeois, as you say, it always I always crack a little smile, because it's bourgeois. Are you bourgeois? Yeah, indeed. And same goes to what I hear often Vauche say, laissez-faire or whatever. It's laissez-faire.
Yeah,
and I see terms like that, and it's always nice, I'm being playful.
Yeah.
I'm not mocking or anything, but it's always, always cracks me a bit of a smile.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course.
But yeah, as Noti says, French is a pain, even for French people. We genuinely have no idea why shit is spelled that way, and it's quite a nightmare sometimes to work with.
We all need to learn Esperanto. That never got its due.
We do.
Everyone needs to learn Esperanto. Oh, hang on, you've got a challenge from Waffle in there.
Oh, Québécois. I can't do the Québécois accent. Fun fact.
It's
Waffle,
called love, you idiot.
It's actually, well, Noti's going to disagree with me on this one, but I am not a huge fan, and I'm really apologise to any Québécois who might read this, hear this, but I have a lot of trouble understanding Québécois people, and it doesn't help that, I'm half deaf,
Yeah.
I'm really hard of hearing as well. And so I have a lot of trouble understanding them, and I'm really apologetic every time. But it's really a completely different accent, and sometimes we really don't understand each other.
Yeah.
But they understand us without much of an issue. But people from France, and there's God knows how many accents in France as well, have trouble understanding sometimes Québécois people. We love them though. We love them.
I think again that's another thing to do with the way that people consider other countries, peoples, and other cultures, and that obviously a lot of people would be surprised to hear you say there's lots of different accents and stuff within France itself. We have the classic examples here that the United Kingdom is I'm in I'm in the east of Greater London. If I go 20 minutes up the road in deeper into Essex, I'll find very different, more rural communities there. And literally, if you cross over the Severn Bridge in the west into Wales, everything is duolingual. Welsh is an official language there. All of the road signs, there are people who naturally speak it. The Welsh government is trying to encourage there to be, I think, 1 million Welsh speakers by 2050. Something which, by the way, Katie Hopkins took exception to. So even like these proud defenders of British culture are only really trying to defend English culture, and even then they're probably not going to defend all of it. And also, I think another thing that I've always kind of found interesting is the fact that, you know, people probably do look at like somewhere like Montreal and just think, oh, well, they're just the same as the Frenchies in Frenchland. But then obviously, you know, it's the same thing with like Brazil and stuff. You have transatlantic versions, so you have, you know, you have Latin Portuguese, you have Latin American Spanish, and obviously you have North American French. And I think that's always been really interesting how people don't, you know, often realise that there's all sorts of differences across language. And as you say, it's something you can play with as a writer.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And like, well, for instance, people who are not French speakers really do not imagine how different the pronunciation is in between, you know, Quebec and you know, the different areas in France too. Even if you go from the north of France, you know, and you go all the way to the south, you're going to go through so many accents. Noti and I living in different regions, for example, our regions have incredibly different accents. So much so that you almost think that it's sometimes, I think if you're not trained when it comes to the E, you could even think that it's a different language, but they're speaking French.
Yeah.
The accent's completely different. As it's just as diverse as like English-speaking accents.
Well, yeah, if you go somewhere like Somerset or in the west, or if you go up north to like Newcastle and that, or indeed if you go to our friends in Scotland, the best part of the Union, you know, yeah, you will get people who will just be like, I can't fucking understand a word you're saying, you know. And they say again, the part of England I'm in, like we have a very like stereotypical accent. In fact, me and my brother used to get. Well, my brother didn't get bullied, I did. But because we sounded posh. Yeah, I can literally, when I worked in a bookstore in North London, everyone used to like say, hello, mate, you're from there, aren't you? Because that's the stereotypical accent, and they could hear that. So, yeah, it's really interesting. Hey, Angie the cat. Nice to see you.
Hey, Cato. Welcome.
Oh, this is someone you know.
Yep.
Really appreciate you following, stopping by. If you like anything you hear while you like, God, I can't talk. Jesus Christ. If you enjoy your time here, really appreciate a follow. But otherwise, it's just great to see you. Should we do what, I don't know, the thing that I think we're both most excited for? I don't know if anyone in chat is going to feel it as well. Should we talk about Witch House music?
Hey, let's go with Witch House.
Yeah.
Hey, you've got experts on the topic right there.
Oh, what, in the chat itself?
Well.
Oh, Bastian.
You and I.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, Bastian.
Hey, Bastian. It's good to see you. You've come just right in time for the music. Oh, also, yeah, Bastian, you did just miss a conversation about the French language, though.
Oh, well, bonsoir. Bonsoir, Bastien.
Comment ça va? Again, that's literally the only that's as far as my French goes, but...
You know, you can even just say ça va.
Oh, really?
Like, when you're talking with your friends, you can just say ça va.
Oh, it's like a casual way of doing it.
And it's really interesting because, you know, you can ask ça va and someone will just answer ça va. Oh, Chrissy.
Hey, it's Baby Doll. Thanks for coming by. Yes, I've just been cycling through like Talia's paintings, and now I was just going through some of the ones based on other people's stuff. So yeah, it's great. Thank you for stopping by. Thanks to everyone stopping by. If you want to throw us a follow, that would be really nice. That would be really helpful. If not, I just hope you enjoy your time here. So yeah, I think I said this to you on Twitter once. I was so happy to discover someone who wanted to talk about Witch House, because
I love it.
I can't tell you, like, there's so many people I've spoken to about it and recommend it to. I've written about it on Pastel Wasteland quite a few times. And it was genuinely nice to meet someone who knew what the fuck I was talking about.
Oh yeah. Oh goodness, you should see my Witch House collection.
Yeah.
It's huge. It's eating up like an enormous amount of my space on my hard drives and the like.
Yeah.
And see, I'm just converting people to Witch House one step at a time. Look at Waffle. Look at Wholesome. I'm only going to call him wholesome. I am not calling you an idiot behind that.
Yeah.
So you're just going to be wholesome. Wholesome duck.
Sorry, I'm just going to pull up. I'm not going to play anything, but I'm very disorganized with my playlists and stuff. But I do have some like Witch House ones, and I'm really restraining from turning anything on. I don't know if you ever listened to this one. This is one someone else created ages ago. It's like a 96 tracks Sidewalks and Skeletons one, and it's like remixes and original compositions. This is based as fuck. I love this sound. I'll put that in the chat if anyone wants to check it out. But if you actually, if people go to my private SoundCloud, I've got some might be private now, but yeah, shit ton of Witch House stuff. I love it so much. I think I was just interested a minute ago when I was just on your page for Outdated Democracy. Mm-hmm. It does actually talk about a world of solid, rigid borders facing another of ethereal and occult nature, and that really struck me because obviously that's almost exactly what Witch House could be considered, especially in terms of its production.
Absolutely, and I've got great news for you for the so I need to go talk to the artists and everything, but the entire soundtrack is pretty much Witch House.
Yes,
with some techno.
Fucking based.
So it's fair. I thought it was the perfect combination considering the themes that were, that transpired from the book and everything. It fits very well on an aesthetic level, especially considering the scene, although it emerged, if I'm not mistaken, from the US through Picture Plane.
Yeah, Travis.
It's been pretty much appropriated by Eastern Europe with its very specific rave culture.
Yeah, it's dominated. Like literally, if you go into if you really spend time in it and you get the algorithm going, it's like dominated by Cyrillic.
It is.
I find it interesting though, like you brought up Picture Plane, because it's like the story goes that like back in 2009, like essentially the name Witch House was created as a joke, and then it got jumped on by people like Stereo Gum and Pitchfork and that. But it's a very appropriate name, and it's in some ways it's a genre I have far more respect for than vaporwave, even though I discovered it through listening to vaporwave. I have very complicated feelings about vaporwave. I'm not really a fan of the genre. But Witch House literally bewitched me. It was such an astonishing feeling listening to it, like dipping a toe in the first time into the water.
Oh yeah, it's very eerie. What I really like, and it's something we talk about with Chrissy, who's in chat at the moment. So it's Fierce Baby Doll in the chat. Is that as well? It reminds us of home too, because they tend to insert a lot of folk Slavic chants and the like. So there's this piece of old home, but it's very occult. It brings an atmosphere that you're really not used to listening to in music, especially considering it brings the occult, but it keeps the melody too. Yeah. Instead of simple horror music and the like, it's very, very melodic. Yeah, melodic.
Pad Chennington, I don't know if you've heard of him. He's a YouTuber. He's sometimes called the Vaporwave Valedictorian. He actually did a very good but very short video, like introduction to Witch House, and it is a little bit thin on the ground, but at least it's a nice primer. I'll throw this in the chat because it's a good primer if anyone's curious. But it sounds like everyone who's here already knows what it is. But I do recommend this video. I think, as I say, I discovered it via listening like vaporwave playlists and stuff. And obviously, like especially growing up, I was really interested in the occult and paranormal and that. So obviously, with the symbolism and stuff, that really appealed for me. I also, as is similar with like the usage of like Japanese and kanji and stuff for vaporwave producers. So oftentimes it's so that basically people can't find out what they're using as samples and then hit them with copyright. But it also has that wonderful effect of creating this mystique around the artists themselves. And I think Witch House really, really nails that.
Oh, it really does. The big bonus as well of Witch House is that it's not invaded. The community's not invaded by chuds.
Yeah, I worry about that because again, I don't know if this is actually racist to say, but because a lot of it is in like Russian, for example, it's like I have sometimes looked at something I'm really enjoying and I'm thinking, is this like music calling for like genocide or something? But it's just because that's a fear I've developed. Honestly, if I'm being very honest, it's a fear I've developed over the past, especially year, from the retro wave and synthwave communities, because those communities are flooded with chuds, transphobes, homophobes, and literal like neo-Nazis. Like I've literally like looked at artist websites which are literally like they will use hashtags like vaporwaffen and things like that. It's not just 4chan waffle. These people are like literally. There are times literally I've DM'd the mod of the vaporwave bot on Twitter, and I'm literally like, "Hey, do you realise your bot is like picking up fash wave?" And yeah, I was really happy when you said that, because honestly, despite the language barrier, Witch House, especially in some Discord servers I'm in, the community seems genuinely very positive.
Oh, it is, and it's quite overwhelmingly progressive.
Yeah.
Even, when it comes to Eastern European countries and the like, well, we can talk about Slavic societies and why I'm saying, a bit surprisingly, because basically they're getting a lot of crackdowns from their governments. You've heard of iSpeak, how they got into trouble with the Russian government in general.
Yeah.
And usually, since rave culture kind of stands out a bit, obviously, from sometimes the rigid conceptions you can have in Slavic societies, and like, it's still quite fairly conservative.
Yeah.
It's getting better. It's going to get better. Like, people who are our age are obviously different to those who came before, so it is going to improve at one point.
Yeah.
But it's still quite conservative.
Yeah.
And so obviously the mere genre itself is going completely against expectations that are set in general for people. So by default, they end up embodying something progressive. And I don't believe I've seen a Witch House artist say like transphobic shit or anti-gay shit, stuff like that, anti-migrant shit. I haven't seen anything like that. It would really surprise me, because it's not even an area of interest for them. And I mean, the figurehead, the guy who came up with the joke, is a notable progressive.
Yeah.
I mean, Picture Plane is absolutely progressive. He spends his time shitting on Republicans and the like, and even some Democrats.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think as well, the anonymity helps. So especially if you're from a more conservative country like in Eastern Europe or the Russian Federation or something, having that anonymity to be able to express yourself in unique ways, and as an artist, like go into a Discord server or Reddit community or something, and you can express yourself better because you have that anonymity. I think that's really helpful. I haven't seen this, obviously, the specific wave genre. I've certainly seen a little bit of like issues there. It does seem to be definitely a thing more amongst English language communities. Yeah, it's, and also you see, and you've said before, like about the anti-fascist vibe, the progressive vibe on it. The first Witch House act I ever listened to was Crystal Castles. We do have to say fuck Ethan Caffey, he's an absolute cunt.
Oh, but, fuck
they
that
are a
guy.
great band. But the first one I ever actually properly got into is actually personal to me for a couple of reasons. One, because they're British. One, because they're fucking awesome. They're very anti-establishment. And they're just kind of, again, they, as you said earlier, they tap into the rave culture as well. It's Crimes.
Oh yeah, I know them. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of the first ones I've known too.
I think they're like an introduction to the genre for a lot of people, especially because Sadie Pin, the singer, she's like a model. Like, so she literally has like this professional career where lots of people have probably seen pictures of her, but they don't know about this very down and dirty genre and like rave scene that she's a part of. I really fucking recommend this band so much. They're a lot harsher than a lot of Witch House, but they were there right at the beginning. Yeah. Also, you know those Twitter tweets you'll see once in a while. It's like, explain your Twitter handle. Mine is literally the reason I use the free in cause is because on Twitter, on Twitch and all of that, I haven't been able to get it as just CAUSE. But then when I realised I couldn't get that, I looked at it and I thought, well, I love Crimes. This is like an accidental homage to them, and that was really something I really liked.
But that's a really good idea. I mean, yeah, like that makes sense. So in the end, you get a cooler name too,
Yeah, it
and you
is
really get to
annoying though.
reference the
Like,
thing you like.
I was in Casey Explosion's Twitch the other night watching her play Terminator Resistance, and I followed her because I realised I didn't follow her, and she was like, "Oh, hello, Cos Free," and then I had it in my friend, a friend of mine, Kinsuku. I was in her Twitch this morning, and she was like, "Oh, hi, Cause Free," and then she sort of stopped. She went, "It's Cause, isn't it?" I don't know if that'll become a meme as like hopefully I get as a bigger streamer, but yeah, no, this band is so fucking great. At the same time though, when I recommend this Crimes to people, I've never heard back from them whether or not they like it, and I can understand why people don't like Witch House. Could you see that? Like, you could understand why especially normies might not get it.
Oh, I could see that. Usually, the softer introductions are definitely,
Yeah,
Sidewalks and Skeletons, Black Ceiling,
yeah.
people like that who
Mon
tend
Morte
to
is a
make
good one.
songs a bit more accessible
Yeah,
in general, but it can be very experimental when it wants
yeah,
to be. And in that case, even I've been listening to Witch House for ever since high school, so it's been quite a long time now. Probably what 7 years or something.
yeah,
Like it pretty much coincides with my book, to be honest. But
yeah,
I've been listening to it for a while, and still some songs I'm like, what are you doing?
yeah.
Because they're being very experimental about it. And even when you see the titles you usually know when they're being a bit even more experimental when you look at the titles and it's just a bunch of letters and with different accents and the like, and it absolutely unreadable.
Yeah.
But I do understand that in that case, it's a bit difficult to get into it. But usually I introduce, yeah, through Black Ceiling, through Axios Link, people like that who focus on melodies a lot.
Axios
And
is so fucking amazing.
I know, right? One of my favorites.
Despite the unfortunate title, it's possible that "Raped" is actually my favorite, at least my favorite dance track of all time. That song
Uh,
blows my fucking mind every
oh, there's
single time.
plenty of most of their songs are really
Yeah,
amazing. We haven't heard of them for quite a while
yeah,
now, and no one really knows who they are. But
yeah. They're not even really on Bandcamp. There is something, I think it's called the Axis Project, which is I think is actually Axios Link on Bandcamp, but I can't confirm that. If anyone hasn't heard Axis Link, this is a playlist that someone uploaded ages ago.
oh, they're brilliant,
It
absolutely brilliant.
astonishing quality, but I love trying to recommend this genre to people like in real life, because it's like there are bands that literally use Unicode, so it's like you can't just give them the name of the artist. You have to stay like
Exactly.
Russian Orthodox cross delta symbol backwards Greek letter omega, and literally you have to. But again, that's part of the fun. And I know a lot of people, you'd look at that and think it's incredibly pretentious, but it all does genuinely gel together.
Oh, it really does.
Yeah,
It's an entire aesthetic, really, on plenty of points. So that's what I really like about it. You can actually, define an aesthetic around it,
yeah,
and that's what's pretty brilliant. And obviously, a lot of them are, visual artists too. They do things on the side. They got an underdog vibe as well. They're really brilliant, and a lot of them, they're really trying to express and experiment in a really personal way too. And it's always very there's a lot of emotion in a lot of the songs that they have. There's a lot of sadness in general and that sort of thing. And all of a sudden, you've got the rave culture coming back
yeah.
too, but it has an incredibly distinct identity to a lot of music genres I've been hearing. You can't really figure out the exact inspiration behind it.
Mm.
Not like vaporwave. Vaporwave, you can pretty much tell. Synthwave too.
Yeah.
You know, but when it comes to Witch House, you've got really a mashup of everything. Like you've got techno, you've got gabba,
Well, I
things
mean,
like that.
it's obviously also tied quite closely to hip hop in a way, because like the chopped and screwed technique used in the production was a technique like hip hop producers were pioneering in like the 1980s or something. The use of skip time beats and things like that. The stuff that is very recognizable as Witch House sort of techniques. Also, my big thing with Witch House is I'm obsessed with the respaces because of it.
Oh, with the what? Sorry.
With the respaces, the sort of the weird genre that you always get a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
on. That's the thing that everyone
I
talks
love
about in
them.
those communities. And again, it's I've never thought about a production as much as I've thought about since I discovered Witch House. Like, not at all. It's not just that I enjoy the music and I love the aesthetic and stuff. It's like it actually really engages me on a number of levels.
It really does, because exactly because of the huge amounts of sentimentality behind it as well.
Yeah,
You
it's
can
very
tell
emotional.
that it's very sentimental, and like you don't have to look for long, to find very emotional tracks and the like, and you can tell it really came out of someone's chest.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. That's why I really like it so much, and it's very. I really like the uniqueness to it, and it's true that it's not necessarily accessible at first. A lot of my favorite artists, if you stumble upon the wrong song when you recommend it, people will be like, "The fuck is this?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas you delve into it and it just grows on you a lot.
I think Crimes are a good one to start with because they're not a million miles away from like techno, especially in the vocal range. But yeah, I think what's the one that's most people point to as the starting point? Is it King Knight by Salem? I think that's the one most people recommend as a
Yes,
start point.
Salem is a big one.
Yeah.
Salem is definitely a big one, especially considering that they made the remix, for Charlie XCX,
Yeah.
for Stay, and it's an absolutely brilliant remix. And I think it's quite possible that a few people had that as an entrance point when it came to it, because they were like, "Wait, what? That's really great. That's that's a great remix." And then, yeah, Salem's a point of entry. I think Salem was the first Witch House band I actually listened to.
Yeah. I
Um,
discovered them much later, but yeah, I know that tends to be what most people consider like
mm,
the initial launch pad for the genre.
yeah, when they're really, you don't hear about them a lot.
No.
You see what I mean? Like they're pretty reserved, and you don't really know what's going on. These days, I'm just on VK all the time, looking for new Witch House songs, and I have no idea who those people are, but their songs are great.
Yeah.
And ever since it's just, added up in my library, and I just have tons now.
It's such a cool genre. So
No, it
amazing.
really is. But I
Um,
think another point of entry, yeah, it's probably Sidewalks and Skeletons and Black Ceiling as well.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Black Ceiling, I've listened to Black Ceiling. I haven't listened to that much, but Sidewalks, I don't know if I put that in the chat already. I'll do it again. Sidewalks is incredible.
Oh yeah, oh
Everyone,
yeah.
I love it when like people, whenever I get like a Bandcamp notification saying that Sidewalks has released something, and then I'll go onto Discord or I don't spend a lot of time on like the Witch House subreddits, but I've literally been on them before when it's released, and everyone is flipping. Like they're all flipping out. They're like, "Holy shit! Yes, we've got new Sidewalks and Skeletons," and and they're also, from what I can tell from Twitter, they're also incredibly they're incredibly like sharp about like promoting other artists as well, like giving people
Oh yeah.
exposure.
They can be pretty funny too. Sometimes
Yeah,
they engage in shit posting, and it's
yeah,
pretty funny. So yeah. It seems like a cool person as well.
yeah.
I really, and I when I found out that Sidewalks had music in Runa, I was like, I gotta play the game. I gotta play the game with Sidewalks in it. And in the end, that game introduced me to another artist that I really, really like now, which is Zamilska, who's
I
from Poland,
I don't
and
know them.
she's great. She's brilliant. She's a techno artist,
Do you know how to
and
spell that?
so hold on, let me write it in the chat.
Drop it in the chat.
Zamilska. She's really brilliant, and her songs as well are a part of the Runa soundtrack.
Mm.
And if you like techno and stuff like that, it can be a bit harsh, I think, for someone who doesn't really like techno in general, because it's
Yeah.
pretty hard hitting. It's pretty gritty too, but I really love it. It's one of my favorite artists now.
Oh, I'm already following them. Okay, so I do know who they are. Hey, see, it's a great mind, but yeah, I don't know.
if
Yeah.
Hmm?
Sorry, no, you was going to say something.
Oh, I was just gonna say, if you have the opportunity to really play Runa, you're gonna love the soundtrack. You're just gonna to keep playing for the soundtrack. But I really like the game as well. But it was a great surprise, and it meshes up really well with the world too.
What's the game called?
Runa.
Oh, Ruiner.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know that one as well. Yeah, I know Ruiner. I thought you said Rona, like as in Corona.
Oh no, no, Bruna.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've heard of this game. Yeah, this looks pretty cool. I'm gonna try and. I was playing. I don't know. Were you in chat last night? You were here briefly, weren't you?
I wasn't,
Oh, it wasn't. Oh,
unfortunately.
we played Valhalla for a little while. The cyberpunk bartender game. But this, yeah, I'm looking for new games. I especially want to go for like indie cyberpunk stuff. So I'm definitely going to look at this up on Steam because this looks dank as fuck.
Oh yeah, it's really great, and it's made by a Polish independent um,
Yeah.
game studio, and the aesthetic itself it inspired me a lot too in my own art.
Mm.
It really depicts a very gritty dystopian world as well.
Yeah.
You know, the ugly side of cyberpunk that's supposed to occur, which really truly asks, you know, the questions that cyberpunk asks in the first place.
Yeah.
It's a really uncomfortable world, I feel, the world they depicted in there.
Awesome. I think this might be a good opportunity to wrap up, unless you've got something else you'd like to talk about. That artwork, though, yeah, hell yeah.
Oh yeah, the artwork's brilliant. Well, I don't have anything specific in mind, but it was brilliant to be here. Thank you so much for the invite.
I've enjoyed this so much. I'm very, very grateful. I'm grateful to you. I'm grateful to the chat. I really hope we can do this again. If you want to bully Nosi to come on as well, we can do that.
Oh,
no, I'm joking. I'm joking.
No, don't worry. I'll bully her. I'm kidding, Noti. Don't worry. I'm not going to bully. But I love how she says he will.
Damn.
But we could definitely do it again, really, like anytime if you want to chat about plenty of stuff, you know, like even when it comes to law things, when it comes to art things, you know who to call.
Yeah.
Who knows, maybe one day I don't know why I'll land up in a stream and Bastia's going to be there. I mean, I don't know, just have many legal people in a stream.
The problem with that is, though, you'd probably end up in there with Lecture Fan, who's just a lunatic. But I would love to talk to Bastia, actually. I partially, and I'm going to be a bit objectifying here, I think he's really fucking cute. But also, like, I'm starting to get invites onto panels, and he's on that list of people I'd really like to talk to, because even though like he's a neoliberal and stuff, and I generally disagree with neoliberal principles and stuff,
Same.
I like the idea of having allies from slightly different political perspectives, and he's just an interesting guy. And as you say, the law conversations would be really, really interesting, because it's not something a lot of commentators on Twitch, for example, they don't have that professional background like you do, like arguably Lecture Fan does, or especially Bastiat does. So yeah, that'd be awesome. I mean, yeah, I'd love to see you on one of those panels.
Well, it's usually great as well because it gives very strong arguments that conservatives have trouble countering.
Yeah.
You know, once you enter, you know, legal philosophy and the like, you know, most of my, if not all of my political positions are motivated by law, and I'm very progressive, and it's perfectly compatible. People have and are under the impression, you know, there's a bit of a stereotype there. People in law, legal scholars, and the like, they're very conservative and reactionary. That's not true at all.
Yeah.
It's very diverse, but you do have more and more left-wingers, especially considering it opened up and it's more accessible now.
I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting that, like, for example, the Trump administration keeps trying to get things like LGBT rights stripped in employment law, like their religious protection stuff coming through, trans military bans. I don't know if that's been shut down, but it's definitely been challenged. But like the Supreme Court in the United States is, you know, I mean, obviously there's the issue of, like, you know, if Ruth Bader Ginsburg dies, but it's like, yeah, the courts keep doing these things that anger conservatives because they are strictly looking, you know, like the the right wing judges on the court, some of them went for it as well. They stuck by the legal code and the interpretations that made the most sense. We had that here in the UK as well back in I want to say October, because basically, I don't know if you know about the I can't remember what it's called, proroguing of Parliament that Boris Johnson tried to do in after the not long.
That it's been quite a while, hasn't it? That rings a bell.
Yeah, basically what happened was the the Conservatives wanted to shut down, like go onto a government vacation, like holiday break, because it got delayed to do with Brexit, I think. I might be misremembering it. But basically, so what happened was the leader of the House, Jacob Scumbag, posh slender man Rees-Mogg, went to the Queen when she was in Balmoral and did like the traditional thing of saying, Your Majesty, do we have your permission to close this session of Parliament? And basically they effectively lied to the Queen, which is obviously a big no-no. And then it went to our Supreme Court. And then the Supreme Court basically turned around and said, no, fuck you, you've got to reopen Parliament. And then people like the Daily Mail and that were literally publishing headlines saying that the judges are the enemies of the people. It was fucking crazy. But they were just interpreting the law. That's literally what they did.
And they protected fundamental freedoms as well. The courts are not your enemy. One of the things I'm trying to dispel a lot, and I wish more people understood, is that being, in law and everything doesn't mean you're with the police.
Yes. That's the issue with the Kamala is a cop, though, thing, isn't it?
It's very different. Yeah. So different, as a matter of fact, that you have a lot of situations in which, lawyers and the like, they're bumping heads with the police. That it happens quite a lot. So it's completely different. Yeah. Completely different institutions. So that's something I'm usually trying to clarify, that you have a lot of progressive legal scholars and the like who, and usually, good scholars in general, even, more right-wing ones and the like, are going to be very supportive if they're not absolute demagogues. You've got idiots fucking everywhere. I mean, the legal people aren't immune to being idiots, but
yeah, of course.
Even, more conservative, at least here, are going to be quite protective sometimes of individual freedoms too, in quite surprising ways. I've seen some of my professors who are pretty conservative ending up, considering, well, yes, trans rights are human rights because they're individuals who are part of a society and they're part of a protected class.
Yeah.
And you hear that from a conservative professor and you're like, what is going on? And their arguments are built through law, and law offers an argument for that, and conservatives have nothing to say about that. They can't fight it off easily.
That's the thing in general, though. It's not just exclusively to law, it's also politics in general. Everyone plays on their emotions, and the majority of people act on their emotions. So as you telling me that from your perspective as someone involved in law, that's actually really interesting and also kind of reassuring to me that it's not just like an aberrant thing that happened in the context of the Brexit phenomenon and everything. It's actually like a tendency that you have noticed even amongst conservatives in the legal profession. That's really fucking awesome.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of positions you can I can defend abolishing the death penalty with only legal arguments.
Yeah.
I could even do it in one sentence. And that's what conservatives have a lot of trouble with, reactionaries and the like. And you can defend. You don't even need to resort, and that's really unfortunate because you wish you had more empathetic people in general, and that they were, would react being like, well, this is a fellow human being, and they deserve the same rights as I do. But people don't tend to think that way, so you have to resort, to hard-hitting arguments and the like, and you can absolutely defend plenty of things without referring even once to emotional arguments.
Yeah.
The death penalty is an example of that.
Yeah. I think...
for abolishing it. It's got no place in a civilized society.
Well, I mean, she's made moves to say she no longer agrees, but Priti Patel actually spoke very notoriously and publicly about how we should reinstitute the death penalty here. In fact,
goodness Christ!
I don't know if you ever saw this, but there was a really epic. I'm not going to play it, obviously, but there was a really epic clip on. We have a program here called Question Time, which is just like a panel thing where people are very like politicians, like celebrities and everything, go on to just talk about the issues of the day and. This is heartwarming. It's Priti Patel basically getting shut down hard on this topic by an editor of a satirical magazine here called Ian Hislop. So I'll post this in the chat. If you're ever feeling down, just basically just gets destroyed effectively.
Wonderful.
Yeah, but it should be.
I lose my mind about anyone who would ever defend the death penalty.
It makes no sense.
If you defend death penalty, you are fundamentally authoritarian, whether you like it or not, because you consider that the state has the authority to decide whether to end a person's life or not.
Yeah.
And that is abhorrent, and you cannot have that in a democratic state.
I think it's also... Sorry, go on.
Oh yeah, no, that's pretty much it. That's usually the argument I use. It's the prospect of the state being able... Well, it's not, obviously it's more complicated than just the big mean state, but symbolically, you can't have a state just decide, I can kill off this citizen.
Yeah.
That's not how it works. And considering otherwise is profoundly authoritarian, no matter who the person is.
I think it's interesting as well that these people are also the ones who are pro-life as well. Like,
funny, isn't it? Yeah.
It's the classic conservative meme of like, life is the most precious thing. Life must be protected at all costs. But as soon as that fucking kid's born, we don't give a shit anymore. And especially if that kid commits a crime, even if it's like, it could be like overturned in court. Fuck them. They're on their own. Pull themselves up by their bootstraps, and the state, again, as someone Angie just said reiterated in the chat, people who say small government and then go like death penalty good, echoing what you just said.
Absolutely.
It's astonishing. And it goes back to what I said earlier about like how much I value and like get annoyed by a lack of consistency and intellectual honesty. Life is precious unless they're black. Yes, that is another thing that you do hear a lot from
conservatives think, reactionaries indeed. Yeah.
They're not quite as good as saying, they're starting to say the quiet parts loud a bit more now. But, yeah, I don't know. But yeah.
It's shoot, I wanted to add something about that.
Yeah, go for it, by all means.
But my memory is always playing tricks on me. I am pleasantly surprised that I didn't have too many moments in which I go, wait, what was I saying? Like, I get that all the time.
I've had that since I started streaming, every single stream I've done.
It's awful. I get it all the time. And I wanted to say something about the death penalty, but I can't remember what it was. Oh, well.
We can do that next time, maybe.
Yeah, we can talk about plenty of topics like that. I mean, if you want to go on fundamental freedoms, like, I love that topic a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to fuck around when it comes to fundamental freedoms. And I think a lot of people don't realize sometimes that they end up advocating for authoritarian positions. Yeah. And that's quite concerning to me. Angie, Cato rightfully underlined as well earlier that a lot of people don't understand, their judicial systems and the like. And obviously that's a big problem too. Yeah. But governments have a responsibility in that. There's only so much that people like me can do.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily have the huge reach that other institutions have. We certainly don't have the financial means.
Yeah. For
sure. So, but it's incredibly worrying indeed, because I think it's crucial to have a bit of legal philosophy and the like. It's very important as well for your own political motivations. I see some people, advocate for things which would be a legal problem. You'd end up with a conflict, and you couldn't find necessarily the answer, but it hasn't been, thought out, and that could be a problem.
Yeah.
So there we go. But hey, I'll keep, talking about it as much as I can. Even and trying to make it fit in less than 140 characters on Twitter.
I think it's easy that you've just touched on that and what Kat said as well about the inaccessibility and stuff. There was something here called a couple of years ago called the Lammy Review, which is it was led by a Labour MP called David Lammy, who it was basically about like inequalities and issues in the UK, just like the UK justice system, revolving around obviously black, Asian, and minority ethnic people, And one thing he
Yeah.
recommended I think the thing that he noticed in that was one of the big. It's been a long time since I read it. I read the whole damn thing. It took forever, but it was like discrimination against like black people, especially in our criminal justice system. It tends to be worse at the stage of arrest, so with the police, and then in the prison service afterwards. But the Crown Prosecution Service in the middle, the people who decide whether or not to prosecute and send things to trial or not, they tended to be a lot fairer. And I imagine it would come from what you were saying earlier, that these are people whose biases are perhaps tempered a lot more by the fact that they are just interpreting law.
Oh, absolutely. So well, obviously you still have bigoted people in law as well. It doesn't make you immune to it, but it's true that usually, you take a bit more of a step back. It's one of the first things they teach us, really. It's so much so that they purposefully give us things to comment on, which are particularly controversial, so that we manage to remove the controversy of it and actually comment on what it means in general. And it's very difficult, actually, because we all have biases, no matter what.
Yeah, of course.
But where they purposefully put us in a position where we're going to have to do it, or we're going to do a poor job. And they're right to teach us that.
Yeah.
And that's why, when it comes to a lot of topics at hand and everything, I always try to put that legal mode on, because I'm like, hold on, there's this situation, but there's, a whole controversy surrounding it. Let's try and remove, the tension, see the situation for what it is.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult because sometimes, I mean, I do a lot of humanitarian law, and I am, obviously the things I have to work on, they really hit you in, it's dramatic, the things that I have to work on.
Yeah.
During lockdown, I was working on commentary in regards to the Rwandan genocide,
Jesus
and it's very difficult, very, very difficult. And when you find yourself, you're a human being and you work with all the documents and everything, it's a bit heavy on the chest,
Yeah, of course.
But someone has to do it. Someone has to look at the situation like that and work on it, because in the long run, people's lives depend on it too.
Well, that's the thing. It's not just a vacuum of legal scholars and lawyers sitting around reading books and then standing up in a courtroom. It is like a material thing that can,
Oh, absolutely.
Impact everyone's lives to the most dramatic extent.
Absolutely, because it ends up you end up finding it in policy and the like.
Yeah.
And it's crucial, and I don't know if it's the case in the UK or in the US or not, but obviously mayors here and the like, they're always working with legal advisors for what they want to, put forward and everything. France is a centralized country. It's just a centralized state. It's not federal. It's very, very centralized.
Yeah.
But, mayors, obviously, they can make a few decisions too, otherwise your country just doesn't function. And they do have legal advisors with them, which is pretty funny too. I mean, a lot of my professors were actually legal advisors to the mayor of my city. I mean,
oh wow,
yeah, it's very, very common.
Yeah,
but that's how crucial it is, and that's why it's very crucial as well to talk about those sort of things too, for people that they know, what they can benefit from and the like. I don't like the idea of it being semi hidden behind a paywall.
Yeah, of course.
It's too important for that. So,
do you just curious? Do you know a lot about issues for traveller? I don't know what you would call them in France or anything, or in the European Union context. Traveller communities, so people like Romani, and things like that. Because that's a topic I'm actually pretty interested in exploring in the future. Maybe we can do a stream on that if you're interested. Because traveller communities here are under quite a lot of pressure. They always have been. Obviously, they have quite high crime rates and things like that, I believe. They obviously suffer from a lot of health issues. LGBT people in that community obviously struggle both within the community itself and then trying to find refuge and healthcare and things like that. There is actually a group I follow on Twitter called, I think they're called Traveller Pride. I actually want to reach out to these people, maybe get them on once. But I was just curious about that because obviously it's a big human rights deal.
Oh, it is. Absolutely. So much so that if I'm not mistaken, there's an entire committee dedicated to it at the European Court of Human Rights or at the Council of Europe.
Yeah,
There's that. It's a huge issue in Europe, and very few people are talking about it. And I consider that, as Europeans, we often go after Americans, being like, your race relations. I hate the word race, by the way. It's just,
yeah,
ugh.
yeah,
In most European countries, and Americans need to understand that they
yeah.
purposefully removed the word race from constitutions, and they're like, it's an awful word, Americans, and you need to stop using
Is
it
it
as sort of.
replaced with ethnicity then, or is it something else?
Yeah, ethnicity or people,
Because you
that
would
sort of
say that
thing.
you're a French national, but you're ethnically Slavic. Is that what you would say?
Yeah, I'd say ethnically Slavic,
Yeah.
even if I'm pretty mixed as well.
You're like
But
blonde and blue-eyed, aren't you?
my eyes are green,
Oh, your eyes are
actually.
green.
But my skin type, it doesn't necessarily come off in pictures, but I'm actually pretty yellow
Yeah,
sometimes. I mean, my family's brown,
yeah. That's what I
so
was trying to get at. Is I know you've mentioned this in the past when we've spoken, but someone wouldn't necessarily clock you as the stereotype of what they think an Eastern European, like someone from that part of the world, would look like. You don't fit into that, but obviously you still, have experience with that axis of oppression and discrimination and things.
oh, absolutely. If anything, actually, I look a bit more like the stereotype of Eastern Europeans than a lot of my family.
Oh, okay.
Uh, but like I do have like the features and the like. It's insultingly stereotypical. But actually, Eastern Europe in general, it's very, very diverse
Yeah,
when it comes to the physique and
yeah,
everything. A lot of my, grandmother's cousins and the like actually have more um, e- stereotypically considered Eastern Asian eyes.
yeah,
Kind of, you got that going on because, of course, quite a few of us as well have, a Central Asian heritage and the like.
yeah.
So obviously you're going to see it in how people are, and there are people in my family who look like that when I don't have that, for example. But where were we going at? Hold on, I don't want to get too confused and go all over the place.
I think it was just because I brought up I was just curious about your opinion on
Oh,
traveller
oh, the
communities and stuff.
Roma. We were
Yeah,
about the Roma. Yeah. Um, we often accuse the US of having terrible race relations,
yeah,
and the thing is, in Europe, we need to talk about the way we're treating Roma people,
yes. So definitely the
like
same in the UK as well.
severely, severely. There is very accepted racism towards Roma people,
Yes,
and it's
a
horrific, and
thousand
it's
percent.
it's institutionalized as well, and a lot of people get away with it, and even people you'd air quotes consider progressive hold very awful.
You've just read
Hmm.
my mind. I was just about to say that because, like, the part of Greater London that I'm in is very close to something called the A13, which is like it's not like a
Mhm.
motorway or highway or however you would describe it in French, but
Mhm.
it's a major road that leads to Dover, obviously. So it's obviously where a lot of our like truck drivers coming, bringing goods from the continent and stuff, and obviously that means that a lot of anyone who's like coming here, either legally or illegally, is coming through this part of the world, and we that does mean that obviously because it is such an important route, traveller communities as they move around Britain obviously come through here quite a lot. Usually they head east because there's obviously a lot more like farmland and stuff there. And one thing,
Mhm.
especially when like the local media picks up on it quite a lot, I will have like very progressive friends, like people who like are pretty chill. They're fucking oh we fucking hate racism. Queer people are valid and stuff like that. They will be like, oh fucking hell, here we go, the travellers are back. I can't believe these fucking people. All they can't do is come and commit crime. Their fucking kids are off to look. That is a blind spot and a hypocrisy. And in some ways, I think it's a
Absolutely,
hypocrisy that a lot of people don't actually realise they even hold.
absolutely. And you have countries like Romania
Mm.
where there was I need to make sure, obviously I'm not a specialist in Romanian politics, but if I remember correctly, there was even an initiative to remove Roma constitutional rights and that sort of thing. And they're in a very dire situation. And when it
Yeah.
comes to crime and everything, in law we tend to study criminology as well,
Yeah.
which is a fascinating um, field of study.
Yeah.
And whenever you have things like that, people go on like, oh, Roma people commit crime, and I'm always like, why?
Yes.
Really, why? Is
Yeah.
it because they're inherently Roma, which no, that has nothing to do with the fact that you're Roma or not? Or could it be because whenever you have a situation where you systemically marginalize entire groups of people, you are obviously going to put them in a situation which is going to generate crime. It is something I'm trying to explain to people a lot is that people respect law when they see the benefits that it brings.
Yeah.
When you put people in a situation where the only example of law that they get is this repressive order
Cracking
that will
down.
hold,
Yeah.
exactly, they are not going to obey it. But
Yeah.
why would they?
Why the fuck should you? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, like I respect the law because I can see that it's bringing me more freedom to do it than it takes freedoms away from me because
Yeah.
I can walk around and be, the tranquil where I go. I can enjoy my personal property and the like, even if the proper name is private property in general. But let's not get in political theory. But objectively speaking, whether it's personal property or the property of a firm, it's still private property. It's the dichotomy in between public and private. But hey, we're not going to get in there. But yeah, I enjoy those freedoms, and I can, it outweighs the freedoms that are taken away from me.
So the
But
thing with that is that obviously, if, for example, fascism is Donald Trump is helping fascism through the birth canal in America. If by your logic there, if the balance tipped and the laws were taking away more of your personal freedom, then I would personally think this. That means that you would start acting against the law. You would start acting outside law. Essentially, criminal behaviour becomes justified because your freedoms and the freedoms of those you care about are being stamped down on.
it's not the idea of it being justified.
Right.
It's the idea that it's some sort of an inevitable outcome. Of course, you've got many, many other aspects as well that tie into it too. You've got, poverty.
Yeah.
Of course. You've got, systemic discrimination, which is tied up with that point too, and that sort of thing. So it's this amalgamation of all these aspects of the thing that will inevitably generate crime. People who are like, like, it's. I lost my train of thought again. This is awful. I swear, I hate my memory. I swear to God.
You've run out of RAM.
Oh, Jesus. No, every time, when I'm always being very careful with my words, not because I might say something edgy, not at all, but it's to be as clear as possible about what I mean. Because, it's very important topics and there's very specific ways of phrasing it to keep the jargon accurate and the like. And so I get brain freezes every now and then.
I suppose in the way you study and what you have to study, you obviously precision, backing up and checking everything is obviously pretty important. So I could see how that would affect your mentality and your approach to things generally. As you say, tying it back to your writing as well. So
absolutely, we're very careful. Like we can end up with really bad grades if we don't word things properly and the like. It's ridiculous. Like you can have a non-passing grade really, really quick, and so we're pretty much taught all the time to be very precise about our language and everything.
Yeah,
being concise. That they really don't like anything ambiguous, and the law isn't supposed to be ambiguous. That's why it's always a huge issue when you end up with an ambiguous law. You want the thing to be as precise as possible. But when it comes to crime, indeed, you have all those aspects that play into each other. So you have this idea that if the law isn't going to benefit you, obviously you have no reason to respect the institution behind it. And you've got poverty, you've got repression, whether it be from institutions or the police, or like, well, the police is an institution as well, but everything ties into each other. And when it comes to the Roma, the Roma people are getting like absolutely overwhelmed by so many aspects. They get discriminated for jobs. They get
Yeah.
discriminated when it comes to state health. When they're not supposed to.
Yeah.
They get discriminated against by police, and even there are situations I'm aware of where someone beat up a Roma person and the police did nothing.
I can believe that. I honestly can. I can definitely believe that, and I think in a way
Mm.
a lot of it comes from the fact that they're um, sort of the culture and the way they live as like traveling communities. That's so antithetical to the majority of people's understanding of how people should live, especially in a country like the UK, for example, which is obviously heavily modernized and stuff. It's like, why the fuck are these people driving around in caravans and stuff? What the fuck, they should come into the fucking 21st century or whatever, join in with everyone else. And it's like, well, no, that's completely unfair. Why should these people have to abandon their sort of culture and standards, and then
Absolutely.
they shouldn't have to.
And what says, well, what says that you have to stay in the same place all the time? What
Yeah.
dictates that? What would justify banning people from doing that? It makes no sense. People do whatever they want,
Yeah.
as long as you aren't harming anyone and it doesn't impede upon other people's freedoms. I mean, it's really mind-boggling to me because they are a target of so much hatred, and Europeans do not bring that up. They never bring it up.
Yeah.
When they, well, that the Roma community as well has been offered very little reckoning in regards to everything that it's been through in general. And even before World War II too, we know what happened in World War II to the Roma population and the like, but it was there even before that. They've been persecuted since forever.
Yeah.
And no one's batting an eye about it. And then people are surprised, you end up with a very marginalized group that is not offered the same opportunities as everyone else.
Yeah.
And people are surprised that they stay on the side.
Yeah.
They don't even, like, there's not even that many efforts to promise proper infrastructure as well for them to travel from place to place to. It's ghastly, really. It's really ghastly because I don't know what people expect. You can't shit on people like that and expect them to just be fine with it.
Yeah.
Of course, it's.
Hey, it's the same instinct you hear from a lot of conservatives in the US when they talk about black communities and that. It's literally just change the culture. Just change your culture. Assimilate. Just come over to our side. Like,
Yeah,
just,
that's easy.
Just
Like,
stop. Just stop being Romani. Just stop being travellers. Just stop.
It's ridiculous, and you'd think on a philosophical perspective, on an institutional perspective, because the way they explain it is like this vicious circle, of violence breeding more violence, etc. And they got it all over the place. They say, oh, the more this community is violent, the state is going to be even more violent, and blah blah blah. And they don't turn things the right way around. The big issue you have is that it's the institutions who have the power to do that. The power of making things better, and you as a state as well, but the state as a general idea, it's not to your citizens to adapt to you. It's you as a state who has to adapt to your citizens. You as a state, your mission on the international stage and what have you is to protect your citizens. That's what you're there for. That's why people made states to begin with on a philosophical perspective. So it makes no sense that people have to adapt this way. Do you see what I mean? It's such a nonsensical argument to tell groups of people to supposedly adapt. Adapt to what? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, the arbitrary standards of the culture are large.
Oh yeah,
which themselves aren't ever
ridiculous.
Consistent themselves. Hey, I think this might be a good place to stop.
Yeah. I'm very talkative.
No, that's fine. No, it's great. It's just I just wanted to Honestly, I kind of want to go into this topic a lot deeper, and I think it might be better if we did it another time. Also, that's
Yeah,
just
that's a
largely an
good
excuse
idea.
because this has been fucking great, and I want you to come on again so much. I've really enjoyed this, and I hope everyone. I'm going to bet a lot of money, figuratively, that everyone in the chat has as well, because this conversation was based as fuck, and I'm so grateful you came on.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. It was really great. I had a lot of fun and it was very interesting as well. I'd be more than glad to hop on back again.
Okay, brilliant. All right, I love you so much, fam, and I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, love you too. And then take care. We'll see you and then the group chat on Twitter everywhere.
Yeah, I will.
Thank
Just
you
going to drop
again.
your stuff into the chat again as well, like your links and stuff. But yeah, what are you on Twitter? You're at This Is Radinsky, aren't you?
Yeah, this is Radinsky. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, mate. I will talk to you soon.
No, my pleasure. Thank you again.
Bye bye.
Bye.